schools, charter schools, which are also public schools, private schools, or homeschool their children. What percent of K-12 students in North Carolina and then in Randolph County were enrolled last year in our public schools, in our charter schools, private schools, or in homeschools? And how does this compare to 10, 20 years ago? Please comment on any trends in the data.
For the first time in the history of our state, the number of students homeschooled surpassed the percent of students enrolled in private schools. In 2014-15, we had almost 107,000 students enrolled in homeschools in North Carolina. We had approximately 97,000 students enrolled in private schools. So that accounted for about 12% of school-aged children and where they were enrolled. And then when you take our public schools, we had approximately, and I'm going to divide our public charter schools from our regular public schools. We had approximately 84% of our schools, of our children enrolled in public schools and about 4% enrolled in public charter schools. The trend where we've seen the most growth over time is in the area of homeschools. And it's really interesting to see how that has surpassed private school enrollment. With the voucher bill being ruled constitutional, I anticipate that the percent of private school children will increase in our state. So that gives you some idea of where we are. Public school, homeschools many years ago in 1985 had something less than 500 students. And then you go from 500 students to almost 106,000 students. And you see that that's where the growth outside of the public school arena is taking place.
Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the new North Carolina Opportunity Scholarship. And Ms. Redding, I'll ask you to lead this question off. As you stated, Dr. Atkinson, this new North Carolina Opportunity Scholarship voucher program was recently upheld as constitutional in our state. What impact do you think this decision will have on our public schools?
I think on the statewide, it will have a great impact. We in Randolph County don't have quite as many private options as, say, Guilford County does or anything some of the other places do. However, I hate when we lose even one student from our public school system, because we lose that opportunity to teach that child, and we lose that child's teaching us. Because I think students learn from everyone. And when you look into today's classroom in Asheboro City and in Randolph County, you see the demographics that you are going to work with the rest of your life. You will not always have the smartest and the best, or all of one race, or all of one belief when you are working. And you need to learn early on how to deal and how to relate. We learn so much from our students from a cultural standpoint that I hate that we will lose that opportunity. We do things better in public schools for the children who have need, whether that is emotional needs, whether those are physical needs, whether those are learning needs. We have the knowledge, we have the ability, we have all of that we can do. So it's a shame that someone feels they need to pull their child out to go to a private school for whatever reason. And as a taxpayer, not as a school board member, but as a taxpayer, I think it is unfair that my taxes are taking money from public to privatize things that I have no control over, I have no say over. They operate under different systems, they operate under different beliefs, they don't have the accountability that we have. And it angers me as a taxpayer, even if I weren't on the school board, it would bother me. But mainly, I think it's just a shame that we lose that student. One of my board members, Gidget Kids, often tells me, fellow board members, often tells me, can you imagine how awesome the school system would be if everyone who is supposed to be in that system were in that system learning? What a great opportunity that would be for public education and for the community at large.
And truly, we are committed to being the best option. We want to keep our students. We want to be the folks who are committed to educating them to the best of our ability. So we want to be able to attract and retain our very best educators and to teach our students.
I think there's no question, Dr. Frost, this will lead to us losing some students down the road, if not immediately. And I guess my take on it is I wasn't involved in those decisions regarding the availability of that money. So I'm going to take the high road on that, and I'm going to pull hard for any kid we have in our school system, as well as any other kid in society that needs an education, K-12 education. I'm going to pull hard because our society needs every child to get a sound education. And, you know, I don't know that I'm in a position to evaluate the other school settings, but I'm just going to hope that everybody takes it as serious as I know Dr. Worrell, staff, Ms. Redding, and school board, Asheboro City, and the Randolph County School Board, Mr. Cutler, and our staff takes our responsibility.
I want to share with you a few numbers. I'm going to be using some information from Kathy Keys' work in the Courier this past weekend. For the 2014-15 school year, 17 students from Randolph were awarded opportunity scholarships. 9 scholarships were used at 3 participating private schools in Randolph County. For the upcoming school year, there are 94 new applicants in Randolph County as of this past Monday. More than $4.6 million has been awarded to 224 of 333 participating non-public schools. And one thing you need to also remember, there's also legislation being talked about right now to increase the money from $11 million to $40 million in opportunity scholarships. So keep your eye on, watch that. I mean, it's gaining some traction. So, and they're also they're raising the amount of a family to upper middle class to able to gain some of the opportunity scholarship money. So just be watching that as it keeps coming out. It's going to have an impact on us, whether we like it or not. It is.
We've talked a little bit tonight about charter schools, and Dr. Atkinson reminded us that they are technically public schools. What is the difference in the oversight and regulations for traditional public schools and charter schools? Are charter schools that are receiving public funds held to the same level of accountability as public schools? For example, in regards to course content, graduation rates, and test scores? Are there guarantees that private and charter schools that receive public funds will be inclusive? And what effect are charter schools having on our traditional public schools? Mr. Cutler, will you lead us off on that question, please?
Well, charter schools in North Carolina, they do not have an attendance zone. So you can actually attend a school from any particular area. It can come from multiple counties. Their certified school staff is only has to be 50%, if I'm not mistaken. And because a lot of them are independent, their control comes from a board, a local board of their that makes their policies and for each individual school. Are they technically public schools? personally, they're not. We're not operating under the same guidelines as they are. Just for instance, today, Charter Academy in Chatham County, they opened up today. Well, today's August the 11th. Well, North Carolina schools, public schools, can't open up until August the 24th, I believe. So how is that the same? I mean, how can you call that a public school if we can't operate under the same rules regarding the calendar? Because as Dr. Atkinson was saying earlier, we would like to have that local control and flexibility over the calendar as they can. As far as their the way they're funded and accountability, I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answers to all of that, and the graduation rates and all that stuff. I'm just concerned about what walks in our schools for Randolph County each and every day. What can I do to help Dr. Gainey, his staff, and our staff of Randolph County schools do what they do best, and that's to take care of these students here in Randolph County that walk through our doors. That's my concern. Charter schools are here. I don't believe they're going away. But whether you can call them traditional public schools, me personally, I don't. So.
I think the other things that charter schools do not have to provide transportation to their students. They don't have to provide lunch or nutrition to their students. So sometimes that in itself limits the student that can attend that school. And it's going to have to be someone who can provide, their parent can provide transportation. The nutrition is also, again, something that we deal with every day in the public schools, breakfast and lunch, that they don't necessarily have to. It costs us money. And I had no idea until I got on the school board the intricacies of school funding, where it comes from, where it has to go, where it has to be spent. And in our system, we are budgeting this year that we will lose approximately $750,000 to the charter schools from our budget. Some of that is students that we have that have been in our school system and we have benefited from. Some of that we have to pay for students who have never been in our school. They are homeschooled in our area. They may have attended some private schools. And so financially it hits us. And again, anytime that we lose a student, we lose that opportunity. So they're very concerning. There are things that we can learn from charter schools. And we have some programs that use some of the same things that charter schools use for teaching. And we try to provide our students with as many opportunities for a little bit of different education as possible. So we just hate to lose any student, and we hate to have to deal with the funding.
And when we think about that state and local funding, that we know that actually follows the student, and thinking about that some of the charter schools are brick and mortar, and some of them are virtual, and we really send within our school district dollars to approximately 5 different charter schools. So thinking about that and the loss of dollars really impacts our particular students because the materials and opportunities that we can no longer supply for our own children here in our community. So that's very concerning, and thinking about that state and local dollars actually in many instances traveling to out-of-state agencies.
Local dollar-wise, $1,058.50 goes to every child we lose to a charter out of our local money, not state money. State money is a different picture, but that gives you a good indicator of local money. Our commissioners have worked hard. We've been in this county, like everybody else, has been in tough times. And our county commissioners have worked very hard to help us get things moving, and that's tough. Every time you lose a child, you lose that bit of local monies. Overall, we will lose students. With school choice out there, we will lose students. But I agree with Mr. Cutler in that, you know, charter schools are here. And I'm not in the decision-making process when someone chooses to go to a charter or a private. I don't usually get asked what I think or will you approve it. So I'm going to keep focusing on those 17,900 that walk through the doors of our school system, and we're going to keep doing our business. And if we do our business good enough, then those comprehensive programs that we offer will attract children back. Because, you know, when I ride through Asheboro on Friday nights, headed to particularly Friday night in the fall, I don't see, it's kind of hard to drive by Asheboro High School. There's a lot of traffic. There's a pretty good indicator of the comprehensive high school right there. Student body, faculty's there, cheerleaders there, football team's there, and then there's the band. I used to love, as a high school principal, I love Friday nights. That was my best shot at getting everybody out of the classroom in one place to really showcase the school. That was a thrill like none other. It didn't, you know, I like when we won, and I know the Blue Commons like to win, just like everybody else in Randolph County likes to win. But that's a pretty good picture, folks. And I'm going to go back to what I said on the last question. I just hope for those children who choose to use other options that they're getting the same comprehensive experience that the public schools in North Carolina are getting. That's what I hope.
And we're so excited about our students excelling in our classrooms, on our stages, on our fields, and thinking about all the different cultural arts activities that we provide for our students. And we truly believe that all of our students deserve those opportunities to have a well-rounded education, to have the STEAM activities, the STEM activities, thinking about all of the global challenges that we provide our students. We believe that all students within our school districts truly do deserve that very best education that we can possibly offer.
As I look at the flexibility of charter schools versus our traditional schools, there's one area that I believe, there are several areas that I believe need to be changed. One is the calendar. As has already been pointed out, charters can start at any time and make it so that it will be personalized or customized for the children attending that. Our public schools do not have that flexibility. In looking at the dollars flowing, we know in one area, for example, career technical education, that for our public schools, those dollars must be spent in grades 7 through 12 for career technical education, with some exceptions. However, those dollars flow to charter schools, and they can be used for any purpose that the school chooses to use those funds. I do anticipate that we will have an increase in charters. I don't know where the saturation point is, but about 4% of our students are now enrolled in charters, and with the cap being removed from the number of charter schools, I anticipate that that number will grow, but I don't know how much. But if we just, it would be better for all of our schools, I believe, to have that flexibility to fix the calendar that would be advantageous for the children attending that. And we know that if you don't have that long summer time off, although I love that time, that you have a better chance of retaining that knowledge. And so if you give charter schools the flexibility, then that puts our other public schools at a disadvantage. And I think that that's a really important component of looking at giving parents the choice of whether to attend a charter school or another public school.
The last category that we had questions submitted was in the area of parent and community involvement, and with deference to the amount of time that our esteemed panel is giving us tonight, we'll wrap up with one last question. And Dr. Atkinson, I'll ask you to lead off on this one, please. In what positive ways can citizens of North Carolina and Randolph County ensure that our public school systems remain strong, and what do we need to do to make our schools the best in the nation?
Number one, we have to support our teachers. We have to show how we value them, and we do that by sending our messages to our General Assembly members who make the decision about teacher salaries. Unlike other states, the dollars for paying our teachers come primarily from the General Assembly. In other states, paying teachers comes from local property taxes. So there is a difference there. Second is to volunteer, to come to our schools, to see the great things that we know are happening in our schools, and be a gossip. For heaven's sakes, gossip about the great things that our schools are doing. Sure, we've got lots of room to improve, but if we share, if we spread the word about how public education is building our futures, then I think that we have a better chance. The third thing is, don't believe everything you read, because if you do, then you get the wrong impression in some cases about our public schools. And I do believe that there is a movement underway in the United States to demonize public education, because there are profits to be made in education. And so if you keep salaries low of teachers, you have high turnover rate. If you keep pounding and pounding that schools are failing, then you start a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's up to us who love education, public education, to make sure that we correct people when they say the wrong thing, or to ask them, what is the source of your data? And we have to become very active in our communities as it relates to supporting public education. If our silence will be our enemy, our voice must be our friend, and our voice must speak out for the children who deserve a great public education.
And when we think about you being in our schools and encouraging your friends and families to be actively involved in our schools, then it becomes personal. You get to see the real life stories of how well our students excel and how much they need your active involvement in our schools. So having those personal stories that you can go out and continue, like Dr. Atkinson said, to gossip about the great things that are going on in our schools, to really help people understand the benefit and how public schools, we are a game changer in a child's life. With a great public school education, they have so many options for their futures, and we just want to make sure that they're ready for those options.
May I add one more thing before I forget? I learned in my marketing class when I was in college that if you have a bad experience, you tell at least 10 people. If you have a great experience, it's a rare day if you tell more than 1 or 2. So that's why we have to reverse that for our public schools. Tell about the great experiences, and I guarantee you that there are a lot more wonderful, life-changing things happening in our school than there are bad things.
Central office will be happy to give you any information on email addresses, telephone numbers, addresses for any of our legislators. They need to know that there are people other than the school boards interested in public education and interested in maintaining the standards. We can provide any of that information that you need. We can provide talking points. bullet points of what you think what needs to be said, what needs to be gotten out there. And again, I stress the volunteer opportunities are there. There is not a school in this county that would not welcome someone coming in the door and saying, I am here to help. I don't know of a teacher that wouldn't welcome someone coming in to see what is actually going on in the school, to see how different education is from where it was, and educate yourself. There are ways that you can find out what's really going on in the schools. You can actually look and find what are the tests that kids are taking. And I will promise you, you will be astounded. I pulled this up a couple of months ago. I have 7 years of education after graduating from high school, and I refused to take the seventh grade test. I just would not do it. There's a lot more knowledge out there. There's a lot more testing on things that we don't realize. And know that that's out there. We're not dumbing down education. Kids are being asked to learn more and more and more and be able to spit it out on a standardized test on one day when things may or may not be good. There are volunteer opportunities. We ask people to help us deal with our strategic plan, to come up with what you think are the strengths of Asheboro City Schools, what you think are the weaknesses of Asheboro City Schools, what do you think the future is going to bring, what do you want a student who graduates from our system to look like. So the opportunities are there. We may not be asking you personally, but we want you to ask us. And again, talk to the central offices, and they can tell you all sorts of volunteer possibilities. And any one of the school board members can also tell you any of those possibilities. We welcome. We're transparent. We want you to see what's going on.
Absolutely. I would be glad to take anybody in our schools and show them all the good things that are going on, because there are more good things going on than what you may think or read that's out there. I mean, I see when I go to the classrooms, I just see the pride that the teachers and teacher assistants and even any support staff in the school they have. They absolutely love it. And it takes a special person to do those kind of jobs. And I'm personally, I'm just so proud to be part of this Randolph County school system, and also knowing we also have Asheboro City school system here in Randolph County. We got 2 great school systems here. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are volunteer opportunities. I like to throw 2 of them out there. There's Communities and Schools of Randolph County. Great place to go for some volunteer opportunities, and they do help with the backpack pals. Very important to some of our students here in the county to have that food able to go home with them on the weekends. Another opportunity for you is the Randolph County Partnership for Children, another great organization. There are opportunities here. Like Ms. Redding was saying, you can contact Central Services, Dr. Gainey. He likes to talk, so he'll talk. And we'll steer you in the right direction. But guys, anytime you want to come visit our schools, we're glad to have you. Absolutely glad to have you.
I'd say, whether it's your own children or not, talk to them about school. Talk to kids about school in the community. Show them that you're interested in what they're doing. Whether you're asking them what classes they're taking, how they're doing in school. You'd be amazed. Even when I was a high school principal, I used to remember behind the staff all the time. I didn't like that young adult label we put on those high schoolers, even the seniors. They were big kids. That's what they were. They were big kids. If you didn't believe it, let them get upset about something. They say, they're in tears. And now you think, well, that 18-year-old isn't the young adult we tried to make them into. They're a great kid. They're a big kid, and they still need our nurturing. Ask kids about school, because here's the issue that at the end of the day, where any of us are in 30 years, who knows? But we need